Hi, this is Bob Bennett and Tommy Swait. Again, this is the third in our series of what to do or how to behave when you face an administrative warrant or administrative subpoena, and what happens when there is a criminal subpoena or criminal search warrant involved. There are two other videos that you can look at on YouTube that provides this additional information. Again, we're dealing with a situation where the Texas Medical Board and the DEA or some other agency is trying to get you implicated, the doctor, in some type of illegal or unauthorized situation, either violating the rules and regulations of the Texas Medical Board or the criminal statutes of the state of Texas or the federal government. And again, I'm a former assistant United States attorney who's handled many of these cases. And of course, to my left is the esteemed Tommy Swait, who is an MD and lawyer. Sometimes he couldn't make up his mind which way he wanted to go, and we are the beneficiary of his training in both areas. So you remember in our last video we talked about an administrative subpoena or administrative ducis tecum, where somebody would come to your office and wanted to look at your records. And the question in that situation was what rights, if it's an administrative document they're showing to you. And on the video we're going to show you what passes for and what will be used to show you what you may be faced with. What we have for you today is the actual search warrant that was used in the Conrad Murray case. And this is a search warrant issued by a district judge. In addition, we're going to talk about and compare the Texas Medical Board's subpoena ducis tecum. And we'll put this on the video so you can see a little bit more about it. And so we talked about that in video 2. This is video 3. And Tommy kind of summarized again what rights a doctor has if he is confronted with this Texas Medical Board subpoena ducis tecum.
You have an absolute right to have them wait until you have an attorney arrive at your office. They want to make this subpoena look like a subpoena from a judge.
Make it look like a search warrant.
Yes, they want to make it look like, you're right, I used the wrong word, make it look like a search warrant from a judge. It's not. It's no more different than if Bob or I executed a subpoena for records and sent it out to an office. We can do that. We can do the same thing that the Texas Medical Board does. If we have a case and we have a legal right to do it, the legal right to do it would be we would be involved in the case and we'd have some legitimate reason to want to obtain documents. It's the same thing. The Texas Medical Board doesn't have any more rights than Bob or I. We can't put you in jail if you don't give us our records. All we can do is go and find a judge and ask the judge to enforce the subpoena. That supposedly is all the Texas Medical Board can do.
Let me stop you right there, Tommy, because I think I want to be sure that our listeners, the doctors and lawyers looking at this, understand the difference between probably the attorneys, if they don't, they should understand the difference between the search warrant, which has the force of a judge behind it, and this subpoena ducis tecum from the Texas Medical Board. And it's really the power and the authority that a judge has in this case. So that if you violate the search warrant, if you interfere with what the officers are doing with the search warrant, you're not only impeding or stopping the search, but you're violating a court order and you can be held in contempt. Entirely different situation with what happens to the Texas Medical Board.
Exactly, exactly. But they want you to think that this subpoena has the force of a search warrant. It does not. basically what they would like for you to do is to consent for the search, so they don't have to worry with it. If you consent to the search, you've given away all your rights.
Now let me back up again, because this is a very important point. You don't have a right if somebody comes to your office with a court-ordered search warrant to say I consent or don't. It's over and done with. You have to sit down, be quiet, make sure they can execute the search. So in a search warrant signed by a judge, you have no rights other than just sitting there and not interfering with it. Maybe they'll let you call your attorney, maybe they'll let you video, but they don't have to do that. With the Texas Medical Board, you have certain rights. And I think one thing we want to go into and talk about, Tommy, is with your extensive research and practical experience of handling these cases, you were able to obtain some of the actual directions and some of the actual rules that the Texas Medical Board tries to use to get you, the doctor, to give this information when you don't have to. Let's go into that, and could you explain that to our listeners, please?
I have some training documents that they use to train the investigators for the Texas Medical Board. And you get sort of a tenure about what they're attempting to do. They're attempting to scare you. They say, you have often caught the respondent off guard with your visit, and this is the best time to get information out of him.
Let me stop you right there. On what we're talking about is the internal Texas Medical Board instructions, and what we're talking about is the respondent being you, the doctor, and the investigator trying to get as much information as they can out of you. Is that right?
Exactly. That really clarifies. And they tell these investigators, search the office. They don't have a search warrant. They don't have a right to search your office. They don't even have a right to talk to you unless you want to talk to them. They don't have a right to talk to your staff unless your staff wants to talk to them. You have a lot of rights with a Texas Medical Board subpoena. And you don't have those rights with a search warrant signed by a judge. If there's a search warrant signed by a judge, someone has gone to that judge and said there's probable cause for us to think a crime has been committed. And that's a different situation than a Texas Medical Board subpoena. All that is an administrative subpoena, essentially asking you, please give us these records and put your head in a noose.
Let me throw a little bit in here too, Tommy, because this may be one of the first times that you, the doctor, have been confronted with or actually seen how the Texas Medical Board operates. And the information that you received from the Texas Medical Board on the search of the office instructs the investigator, ask where the controlled substances are kept. If they claim not to have them, then search the sample closet looking for controlled meds keep out in the open. Meds kept out in the open. So again, there's no right to do this. They're getting your consent if you give it. Or prescription pads, medications kept out in the open. So they're trying to show that anybody who wants to can come along and steal it. Ask where the official prescription forms, triplicate pads are kept. If other violations found, talk with the respondent. So you're being set up, you're being enticed to basically make the case for the Texas Medical Board against you. What are some other things that these instructions tell us, Tommy?
Oh, they want to question the doctor. They want to review records. And the most interesting thing is if they find something in the records, they want to question you more about it. The problem is you're going to think, well, if I just talk to them and be reasonable and try and be honest, all this will go away. Wrong. Anything you say to them is going to be used against you in the worst way. One time I represented a client who got himself indicted because of what he said to these investigators. Now, we got him out of it, but months of been getting gray-haired and worried, and sleepless nights, and his wife worrying about whether he's going to go to jail or not. No one wants to worry about that. It only happened because he opened his mouth. A catfish wouldn't get caught if he just kept his mouth shut.
And a good analogy. I think we can understand a little bit better with that. Let me also just kind of conclude what we have now discovered from the records of the Texas Medical Board. And this is the instruction again, sort of the final instructions from the Texas Medical Board to their investigators. They tell the investigator this: make sure you have all questions answered before you leave. You have often caught the respondent, and the respondent again is you, the doctor, off guard with your visit. And this is the best time to get information out of him or her, whoever the doctor may be. So in a situation like this, where most doctors are thinking, well, it's the Texas Medical Board, they're here to help me, just the opposite is true. So the bottom line there is to keep your mouth shut, ask for your attorney, be prepared for what happens. Now, let's turn now to a search warrant, and this is the search warrant dealing with Michael Jackson, his doctor, Dr. Conrad Murray. And we'll show up on the screen these 2 pages of the search warrant, and basically the investigator, criminal investigator, can come in and just shut you down. If they tell you to sit down, you have to sit down. If they want to ask you questions, you have a right not to answer those questions, even in a situation with criminal investigation. You have a right to a Fifth Amendment, and you have a right to, if necessary, call your attorney at some point. But as far as gathering documents, you can't in any way interfere with that. You can't tell them, well, I'm not going to produce it, because then you would be in contempt of a court order. So those are 2 different birds we're talking about. 1, the administrative proceeding, and 2, the criminal search warrant. But I want to move on next to a situation that's come to our attention that you, the doctor, may be confronted with. And Tommy, we've come across a situation where DEA agents are really, I would say, sort of posing as people from the Texas Medical Board. I mean, they're using a subterfuge. They're basically lying to doctors in order to get doctors' records. How does that come about?
Well, what's happening is the DEA agents will go in with the Texas Medical Board investigators. Now, for the DEA agent, if he doesn't have a search warrant from a judge, he's going to be asking you to sign a form that says you're giving up your constitutional rights to let him search and go through, or her search and go through all your records and see what they can find. In that situation, if they're handing you a form and they want you to sign it, you know they don't have a search warrant. If they got a search warrant, they're not going to ask you, they're going to tell you. If they don't have a search warrant and they're trying to do it through an administrative subpoena, they will attempt to have you sign a waiver. Don't sign it. Tell them you want to call your lawyer. And let them sit outside in your waiting room and you call your lawyer. Have your lawyer come out and deal with the people. The reason for that is if your lawyer's telling them no, 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 it's not the same as if you telling them no, no, no. Big difference, the way they look at it. So in that case, if they're asking you to sign waivers or asking you to sign anything, don't sign it. Call your lawyer. Don't sign something that you say these are the records. If you do that, you think, well, I'll sign that they copied these records and I'll sign these are the records. Well, let me tell you, they have been known to fake documents. And if you think that's not true, I can show you the case where they fake protocols. So these people are not out there to help you. Their job is to find cases so they can go to the legislature and tell them they have put all these bad doctors out of business and we don't need to have malpractice attorneys. That's what their purpose is.
Okay, so what we've done in these 3 videos is try to inform you, the doctor and the lawyer who represents doctors, of what happens with an administrative a search warrant, and then cases where the DEA or other government agencies try to pose as members of the Texas Medical Board and try to get records. Of course, the bottom line on this is, 1, be prepared, 2, talk to your lawyer, 3, if there's a question about it, call Tommy or Bob, and we're happy to talk to you about it free of charge to you. Now, the next program, number 4, is going to deal with what we call compliance programs and why it's absolutely essential, vital for your practice and for your business to have a compliance program that you follow. So, wait for number 4, it's coming. Good to talk to you again.